I'm just having a whole bunch of issues today. What's going on, everybody? I'm Robert. This is Bridging the Geekdoms, and we're going to talk about the Obi-Wan Kenobi finale. I didn't get a chance to do my typical video that I would do, so I'm doing a quick live one here. So if you happen to be, stopping by or seeing that this is going on live, please leave a comment on your thoughts for Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I'm going to try and stick this to about 15, 20 minutes here at most. So the rematch of the century has come and gone. Yay? I don't know. Now, last week's episode of Kenobi one showed us the menacing and unforgiving Vader who still allows himself to be driven by his emotion. Reva was left for dead, even though we knew she wouldn't die. As the survivors made their way to safety, it was curious on how they would handle this final episode. Going into this episode, I wasn't overly excited as I thought I would be. This season, the series has been not everything that I've wanted it to be. I've enjoyed bits and pieces of it. I've talked about it in all the reviews from the previous weeks, but this one here, there was something about this episode that I don't know. It didn't deliver for me. But let's talk about the good before we get into the bad. How about that? So what I did like was Vader's emotion. I thought his emotion in this was absolutely phenomenal. Then we have, before we do that, the emotion of Vader, he was allowing his emotions to get the better of him, which is very, very on brand for Vader for sure. And the Grand Inquisitor was level-headed and was right to encourage Vader to go after the survivors and not Obi-Wan. But as Palpatine did say at the end of the episode, his feelings for his old master have left him weak. The way they ended Vader's story in the episode definitely made it like we will see more live-action adventures with him as well. And, thinking about it, I gotta say, I do love what they did with Vader in this series. They've really built up this scary, menacing, ruthless type of character that we kind of lost over the years because the focus fell away from Vader a bit. So I'd like seeing that for sure. Leia and Ben at the end of the show was also, I think, a highlight for me. They cleared up that plot hole on why Leia doesn't mention their time together in A New Hope. But what really got me was Kenobi revealing what parts of Padme and Anakin she possesses. And I'm not going to lie, I did kind of get a little choked up when Obi-Wan was talking to Leia at the end there. I thought they did an amazing job with their relationship. And again, it does explain why in A New Hope, Leia doesn't mention, you saved me years ago, but you fought with you served my father during the Clone Wars. Again, I know that a lot of people had issue with Leia being in this show. I didn't. I really enjoyed what they did with that character and what they're doing with her. And I do hope we get to see her down the line in exploring her story some more. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't want to see that. But for me, that was one of the highlights of this show. The next thing that I really liked was Kenobi having 2 callback lines in this episode. When he fights Vader here, right when they start, he goes, "I will do what I must." And that's a great callback to Revenge of the Sith prior to his battle with Anakin then. And he does the same thing here. And then obviously at the very end, he does say, "Hello there," to Luke Skywalker, which I thought was phenomenal. I loved that. Again, just the subtleties and the great callbacks that we got from this series were good. But the story arcs are what really left me wanting more. Now, finally, I think one of my favorite things was Kenobi coming into his own again. Obi-Wan is without a doubt my favorite Star Wars character, so it was nice to see him embrace the Force once again, albeit a little late and short-lived for the show. And that's the thing. I really, really enjoyed what they did with Obi-Wan here, but like I said, the story arcs, the character arcs were not what they should have been. It could have been so much greater in the grand scheme of things. It was all right. I'm not saying they were just absolutely trash, but they could have been better. But let's now get to some of the things that I didn't like. First off, Riva. Her arc was absolutely pointless. Like, there was legitimately no point to her in this show at all. At first, she seemed ruthless and was absolutely amazing. I loved seeing her commit fully to the dark and being relentless. But her story had zero relevance to the overall narrative of Obi-Wan or Leia and Luke and Vader. Another wasted character, in my opinion, just like Finn, Poe, Rey in the Disney era of Star Wars. And it's a real shame. She would be an amazing character if they would have allowed her to evolve a bit more in this show. And I get that there's that point where Obi-Wan kind of feels for her in episode 5, but overall, her arc had no bearing on the story. You could have taken her out and had anybody have Leia get kidnapped. That is the only thing that she truly does in this show that has any impact. And again, you could have had anybody do that. The rest of the story of hers was pointless. So poor writing. I feel bad for Moses Ingram because I really liked what she was doing with the character. And this is not a knock on her at all, because I do want to see more of her. I would love to see a young Riva and how she became an Inquisitor and what drove her, and seeing her coming up with the plan to find Obi-Wan just to get close to Vader. I think that would have been phenomenal, but they missed an opportunity big time. And it's a real damn shame. It really is. I'm sorry, but for those of you who liked Riva and liked her arc, I want to know what it was that you liked about it, because I wish I could. I really do. Now, I did enjoy Luke and Leia being the reasons Kenobi re-embraces the Force. The way it is executed, though, is, I think, unforgiving. I really expected more in regards to Kenobi being led back to the Force. Again, that's something that we just should have seen, especially with the setup that they were doing from the get-go. And it was just not one time. It was every episode. It seemed like they were doing something to set up how he would come back to the Force, yet they just decided not to go with it. And that just baffles me, like completely baffles me, because when storytelling 101, you don't write something and then don't have a payoff for it. There's so many instances in this show where the payoff either is just insignificant or handled poorly, or there is just no payoff. And again, that's just, there's that belief or that story where the writer, what is his name, Jobby Harold or something like that, Harold Jobby, whatever it is, he supposedly didn't watch Revenge of the Sith or never watched it or something. How do you get somebody to write a show like this that has such huge connections to that film, yet you just have no knowledge of it? Not only that, but if you don't have any knowledge of that, you don't have any knowledge or insight on what the fans want to see. And that's a big problem in my eyes. Which this leads me to the Qui-Gon Jinn thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I absolutely was giddy to see Qui-Gon Jinn pop up here. Who doesn't love a Liam Neeson cameo? But that's it. This here, what you see right here, nothing more. I'm sorry, screw this. Screw it. The teases they gave us alluding to this only for a single line of dialogue with, let's face it, a very odd version of him. Look at him. He doesn't look great. And I know that Liam Neeson is aged, but the technology that they have, this is the best they could do. That is just completely unacceptable in my opinion. And then finally, we're going to talk about it. The rematch of the century was underwhelming, to say the least. It did have its moments, but overall, the quick cuts, the quick cuts, leaving the fight multiple times to focus on Riva's ridiculous story, going to Tatooine. First off, how the hell did she get there? And fighting Owen and Beru, which was just absolutely ridiculous. Everything just felt off about this episode and how they wanted to portray this fight. And it's just, come on. I'm sorry. Like, come on. Overall, they failed with this series. There was too many inconsistencies, too many missed opportunities. It seems like no one actually watched the prequels, much less studied them to fully grasp what this show should have been. But let's not also forget to mention how this show completely ripped off Rebels with Obi-Wan slicing open Vader's mask and seeing Anakin's face. That is completely unacceptable. Somehow the Disney era of Lucasfilm doesn't even know what they did before or don't even care at all. I realize I'm not supposed to like or love everything Star Wars. I get there are characters and stories that won't be made for me. But this should have been nothing but a story for me and everyone who loved the prequels, or more importantly, Revenge of the Sith. In a way, this show spits in our faces and tells us to like it and lick it up, and we have to do it with a smile on our face. Sorry, not sorry. This show had moments that were superb, absolutely, but it mostly failed to deliver. It was just so disappointing. I don't know, guys. Like, I want to know your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of Obi-Wan. I've talked to some of my friends who, some of them loved it. Some of them thought that episodes 5 and 6 really redeemed the show after it struggled with 3 and 4. I don't know. I feel like we were robbed of something that could have been great. And again, I'm not one of those people who sit there and think I'm an entitled Star Wars fan, not even in the slightest. But I think that being a Star Wars fan, being somebody who has appreciated what George Lucas created prior to Disney owning Lucasfilm and Star Wars, I felt like this show should have been made specifically for me. This show should have been made specifically for all the fans of what George Lucas created, especially with the brotherhood of Anakin and Obi-Wan. Understanding that and realizing how important that was. Yet they took half the show to focus on a character that literally had not a single point of being in this show. Her arc leads nowhere where it affects Obi-Wan, Vader, or Leia, or Luke. At all. So I get it. Some people may like it, and I really wish I could have. I do. I really wish I could have liked it. But alas, I didn't, and it sucks. It really does suck. I'm not going to say it's the worst Star Wars that we've gotten, but it definitely is not the best. And it's a real shame. It really is. I wish it could have been better. I really do. But again, like I said, let me know in the comments what you thought. Make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, share this around. I got a little passionate here, I know, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm getting sick of being disappointed. I'm just getting sick and tired of being disappointed. I'm not going to jump on the train that some of those people were saying it's woke and it's this and that. This show wasn't that. This show was just done poorly. Ewan McGregor, great. Moses Ingham, great. Hayden Christensen, great. The little girl who played Leia, great. The actors did a phenomenal job, but the writing was horrendous. It was just horrendous. And we deserve better as Star Wars fans. And while I would love to see them do a season 2, I don't want them doing a season 2 if it's just going to be more of this. I just don't. Again, just leave your thoughts in the comments, please. With all that said, guys, I guess may the Force be with you.